This is Phantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, what's up, Tenniscoury? This is Steven, your host from Phantology Podcast, along with my lifelong friends, Ryan and Jake. And we are talking about Malazan once again after a long layoff. Deadhouse Gates, our coverage of the second book was on episode 60, and this is going to be episode 173, most likely. But Memories of Ice has been completed by me and Jake. Ryan is a longtime veteran, but Jake and I finally made it through.
Yeah, what was that, like a year ago that your guys' Deadhouse Gates came out?
It was at least a year ago.
So I looked it up. It was uploaded on Spotify in August 2020. So
A year and a half.
A year and more. Yeah, a year and a half, I guess. So yeah.
And within that year and a half, I was able to read 3 Malazan books, which is a bigger feat than I thought it would be.
They're big books. They're not just long. They're not just lots of pages. They're lots of
dense.
Yeah, dense. Just they're hard. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of focused reading to make it through, which is not the case for a lot of other books.
Yeah, I had this idea as I was reading. I'm like, man, to keep myself accountable and understanding, maybe I should just like post a video once a week of like, okay, here's what I read. Here's what I think is going on. Like, correct me in the comments because this is confusing. And
we lost Josh along the way.
I was going to say, he was on Deadhouse Gates. He was not. He did not make it through.
Come on, Josh. I'm going to call him out right now.
You just did.
Well, I'm going to call him out in live time. I don't know.
I wonder if the denseness of the book, the density, I guess, if that is kind of what leads towards Malazan having a more hardcore fan base.
So the barrier to entry is a lot higher. So those who make it through have been purified by it.
They're just rabid fans because they've made it through and they think they're awesome.
Must be because the only people who have recommended Malazan have been people who love it, to me, honestly. Like, I've known other people who have started it and wouldn't recommend it and like don't really have anything good to say about it, but those who do recommend it, like, it's one of their top series of all time.
I mean, do people who stop reading in the first book, do they really like dislike it, or is it just more like they couldn't get into it? And I don't know that I've heard any like super strong criticisms of it. It's more just hard to read.
My brother-in-law read the first one the same time I read Gardens of the Moon, and then we started Deadhouse Gates around the same time, and he was just like, I'm not feeling it. Like he thought the first one was okay. And then I think part of it, honestly, is the fact that Deadhouse Gates like is a whole like new story, kind of. You don't really see a lot of the same characters. I think he was like, this again, like I just barely got into this,
just invested all this other time into these other set of characters, and now they're gone and I've got to do it again. Yeah.
Which I'm kind of feeling now that I finished Memories of Ice, and what is it, House of Chains that's next?
Yeah.
House of Chains is next.
I'm kind of like am I
going to be, I'm actually not even sure. Is that another, are we jumping again?
It jumps back to Deadhouse Gates people, right? That's what I've heard.
No,
just completely different.
It's new.
Right.
You're gonna learn about a guy named Karsa Orlong.
I've heard a lot about Karsa, actually.
This is a different area of the world, Brian, like a different continent, different conflict.
Well, I mean, there's a few of his early conflicts are related, but I mean, it obviously ties in later on in the series, so it's not like you're learning about something totally isolated from the rest of it.
Okay. And if you're tuning in, we're not going to do any spoilers past Memories of Ice, obviously, because Jack and I haven't read that far, so we would personally be upset at Ryan. So you can safely listen as well. But we are going to do spoilers for the first 3 books, and we'll talk through a lot of specific plot points, and that's probably starting now. Like I think we're just kind of going for it.
Yeah.
Okay. So which one of the 3 did you like the best, Jake? And maybe we'll get Ryan's opinion on the series as a whole, but out of the 3 you've read?
This has been my favorite, I think.
Okay.
And part of it is, I think it has to do with the fact that we're returning to a plot line that's been established. And so I'm like familiar with like the ground, like the baseline has been set and I'm springing off of that. So I feel more like I understand more of what's going on. I also think it had like, I don't know, everyone loves like the Chain of Dogs sequence, which was great, but I think the last like the final climax at Coral was really cool in this book, and just like how everything gets escalated here was really cool with Perrin's role and things like Ikovian and the Panion Seer or Panion Doman in general. Also, and this is one of those reasons why like I feel like I need to like journal my reading experience with Malazan, is in every book I've been like, at different points of the books I've been like, okay, I think I understand what the overall conflict of the series is going to be, and then that conflict gets resolved in the next 2 chapters, and then a new conflict is there. I'm like, oh, okay, this is what we've been building towards. This is the new conflict. And
really?
then that will get resolved. I've been like, especially in the first book, I was like, what is the, like, I was really confused at what like the overall like conflict was going to be. Like comparing another long series like Stormlight or Wheel of Time, it's pretty apparent like what the overall like series arc conflict is going to be. Whereas with Gardens of the Moon, that wasn't really like, for example, like I thought Anomander Rake was going to be like the big antagonist of the series, and then like that was like disproven. And then I was like, oh, you know what? They're gonna accidentally like unleash, when they unleash, was it Raced? I'm like, oh, okay, so they're gonna accidentally bring back the Jaghut tyrants, and it's going to be a new Jaghut war, and then that is like tied up super quick. Like his on-screen presence was really short. Anyways, that's how it's been reading it. And so once again, in Memories of Ice, I feel like I'm finally understanding what this series-long conflict is going to be. I could be wrong, but so far the book hasn't disproven it yet. So
yeah,
I think that's why I've enjoyed it the most.
I think knowing the name of the last book in the series kind of clued me in as to what the big conflict was going to be.
Which I don't know, honestly.
So the name of the last book is The Crippled God.
Okay. So So my theory is probably proven true then from this latest book.
Yeah, I think it really set it up to be, especially like right from the beginning with this one, with like the flashback from years ago, millennia ago. And I like how that came, that was then important at the end when you realized it was Tool's sister. I don't remember her name.
Kalava,
okay, sure. And the seer himself and his sister and the matron, like that was all that was really great that tied in, because up until the point I was thinking back, like what was the point of that, the beginning sequence? Like was it just to introduce these old conflicts? But no, it actually was like character specific. That was really good.
Isn't it crazy in this series how it's like 250,000 years before Burns sleep or whatever, and then you're just like, oh my gosh, how is this still relevant? You know, and you think of in Stormlight Archive, the prologue, the first book, it starts so far before the events. That's only, I don't know, a few thousand years before.
Yeah,
at most. Yeah,
the world is a lot older in Malazan. Yeah.
So, Stephen, I want to answer your question about which one was my favorite.
Okay.
And my response is Memories of Ice. Definitely. I think that it's
out of all 10 or out of the first 3.
I don't know out of all 10. If it's definitely probably in my top. If it's not my favorite, it's definitely number 2 or 3 out of
Okay.
the whole series. That's the Malazan Book of the Fallen series. I haven't read any of the Ian C. Esselmont or any of the other Erickson
Mhm.
books. So, anyways, I just think this is awesome where you're starting to see these elder races. You have the Kachane Shamal, you see more of the Jagged and the Tollan Mass, and they're just all coming together, and you're learning about these intricate, like the ritual of Talon, and you have Silver Fox introduced and Whiskeyjack. I love Whiskeyjack, and I thought that I was definitely shipping. I mean, I loved the Whiskeyjack Corlott romance, and so it was just all great to me. And then you have Calor and Kaladin Brute. You have just all these epic people that you know, and but you haven't really like been around as much as like you kind of learn about them in Gardens of the Moon, but it's like these are
Mhm.
ascendants, and you're kind of like reading about ascendants and finding how they react. And it's I don't know, I think it's so cool that you had just have such epic beings like interacting with the characters and shaping events, because in a lot of series I feel like these epic characters are kind of in the past or very far removed, hard to reach from the main characters. You see them occasionally, but not as much. In this series, they're present, and they, I don't know, I just love reading about them and seeing how they act, and hearing their stories. And I think that Memories of the Ice that really comes to the foreground.
I don't think I disagree with anything either one of you said, but I did like Dead House Gates better. And it was mostly because the whole chain of dogs thing and that conflict was just so it was so compelling to me as this group was being harried across the desert. And I thought Coltane and Diker especially were two really awesome characters, probably two of Erickson's best characters that I've read thus far. And I liked a lot of Memories of Ice. I didn't dislike the book by any means, but I do think we're kind of glossing over what I thought was a lot of fluff. There are a lot of pages of what I would call fluff.
In
Not
Memories
stuff.
of Ice.
Yeah, everything. I thought there were probably like 200 pages between the end of the siege of Kapustan and the beginning of Coral, where they were just like kind of walking around and talking and like I get it, like it's an epic fantasy and there's all these players and like we're introducing all these conflicts, but at the same time, I just thought the speed went like way slow, and I never felt that way in Dead House Gates. I thought Dead House Gates was compelling all the way through, and Memories of Ice was more kind of like up and down, and the highs were probably higher than Dead House Gates. Like the last 100 pages, I would compare it to like the end of Oathbringer, where it was just super fast paced, super exciting. Everyone's on the screen together, lots of viewpoints going everywhere. That was great. The Siege of Kapustan was great. Meeting all these different characters and all these conflicts was also great. But I thought it got a little bogged down in sections.
I would disagree. I like Dead House Gates. I also liked Felison's plot line probably the most out of Dead House Gates. So like I said, I like the Chain of Dogs, but I thought it was more compelling following Felison and her journey. But I felt like Dead House Gates was more like this slow kind of like things were slowly ramping up the whole time and like getting more and more like intense and anxious. Whereas I felt like Gardens of the Moon or Memories of Ice had like more action throughout. And like that lull you're talking about, I thought that was like a classic, like in a kind of like a blockbuster action movie where you have this really crazy like battle at the Siege of Kapustan and just like lots of action. And then after that, there's like this like calm before the bigger storm, it's because that's when you set up like the distrust between Jujek and Kaladin Brood, and they like realize that the bridge burners aren't really exiled. Like this is all like a ploy just to recruit their enemies as allies against this other threat. Like I thought that was really cool, and that really like set up consequences for the battle at Coral, right? I don't know. I didn't see that as like a slog or like bogged down fluff. I saw that as like, okay, like catch your breath before this next big battle and kind of setting up the next big battle to be even more exciting.
And I think it's necessary for sure to have the catch your breath time, but maybe I would say Deadhouse Gates is more of a focused story for me. Like there was the Felicen storyline, there was what else? There was the Mappo and Ikariam storyline, and there was the Chain of Dogs storyline. There were kind of the three main ones.
And Crocus, you had
sure,
yeah, and Kalam's
maybe there were
journey.
some other things, but Memories of Ice was more of a sprawling story, and maybe I preferred a little more focus. I mean,
I thought Memories of Ice was more focused. It was like Panyon Doman here. This like from the get-go, it was we need to protect Kapustan and then attack the Panyon at Coral. And that's like, I don't know. I felt like you understood what was going to happen from the beginning of the book to the end better than with Deadhouse Gates, which was more like just experiencing events unfolding. Which I don't know.
There were pages and pages all about the Grey Swords and Ecovian and Fenrir.
Don't talk bad about Ecovian
and Gruntle and all of that, like all of these like minor gods and mortal swords and stuff, but like that stuff wasn't really important for the end of the conflict, in my opinion.
Don't downplay what Ecovian did. He's like one of my favorite characters ever written at this point, and I'm hoping he comes back in some way. That's really? one thing that I'm like confused about the effect of Malazan on myself, because Gardens of the Moon should have taught me that like death means nothing in this universe, right? Like people are brought back all the time in different and better, cooler ways. Like what Perrin dies and comes back within like the first third of Gardens of the Moon. Anyways, but at the same time, when Whiskeyjack died, like that was like a big blow to me. And I was like, why am I feeling upset about this? Like death doesn't mean anything, but it's still a big blow. And like with the Ecovian too, like the way he goes out was so epic. And I'm like sad that he's gone, but I'm also like, he could easily come back. I don't know. It's just interesting.
They could, but are they for sure? Because it seems like the other characters that have come back, we've got hints pretty quickly that they're still around. Like even when Coltane died, it's pretty obvious that like something happened and he's probably coming back in some way. When Diker died, pretty obvious. And now they bring him back here. So we had those hints right away when Tattersail died, within the same book, we knew that something was going on. But I didn't see any indications here that
I'm just saying
Whiskeyjack or Ecovian could be.
Yeah, I mean they didn't come back yet. Like that's what I'm saying, given the history, like
I'm with you. I don't know what to think either.
But I just thought it was I should applaud the writing that even though death isn't this final thing in the universe, I still felt it when Whiskeyjack died and Ecovian sacrifice and everything.
Maybe part of that is because you saw the effect that that had on the other characters.
Yeah. Corlott
and how dramatic their funerals were and the respects paid to them and everything. Like it, maybe that's what you're feeling, like this empathy for the other characters as their friend has died.
Yeah, which again, like it's a what's the word I'm looking for? like a plus to the writing. Like it just shows how good the writing is, right? To elicit that emotion out of me. I don't know. I can't believe you didn't really like the Grey Sword part and Gruntle's play. Like to me, that was like on the same level as like Ikariam and what's his companion? Sorry, I haven't read
Mappo.
Mappo. Like Deadhouse Gates was a while ago. These have been slow burns for me to get through. But I felt like their journeys were kind of similar to Gruntles and Ecovians in terms of like they aren't the main event, but they are cool events that are happening.
I liked Ecovian during the siege, and then afterwards, I don't know.
He was just cool the whole time fighting.
I couldn't really connect with him afterwards.
And Ecovian, Malazan in general, this book specifically, and Ecovian himself, and Perrin, and I don't know, so many of the characters like have made me. I just started a new D&D campaign, and I was like, okay, I need to like step up my character creation game because these characters are so cool. Like I need to have something like when I create a character, they have to have like real history to them like these guys do. I don't know.
The more you read and recognize, I guess maybe it's when you start trying to formulate things like or create world building, is when you realize what these authors go through to make such diverse, unique, in-depth characters, their backstories, right. Like especially now as I'm getting more into it, I pay more attention to like character description. They're like talking about like, you know, a particular birthmark or whatever. I'm like, man, how do you like think of this stuff? Do you just like throw it together on character and stuff that I wouldn't give a second thought about, I don't know, 5-10 years ago. Now I'm just like the littlest details or creating like scenery to place people in. I don't know. I have a whole lot more respect for authors.
And it's like only the pages that make it to the book, right? The words in the book are just a fraction of what I'm sure was written down to create all of this. And it's funny you mentioned D&D, Jake, because the Malazan, the whole thing started as
that's
an extension of what they were doing.
That's how I was thinking of it. Like these were all characters they built. Not, I don't know all of them, but a lot of them were characters they built in their own like RPG gaming and it's like, man, I need to step this up. Like they created like full-fledged universes. To that point you guys were talking about, and Wheel of Time being like my favorite series for such a long time, I think that also does it pretty well. It's just crazy how like in both series, and I'm amazed by its depth in Malazan, is just how like they're telling a story at this moment in time, but the world they created has like hundreds of epic stories in the history as well. So not only did they have to come up with this epic story to tell, they like in the history that like pepper through these other like really interesting things that just for now just serve as like, I don't know, support to this story. Kind of makes me think of like the Wheel of Time did it really well in my opinion with the Age of Legends. Like I was always like, man, tell me more about the Age of Legends. You know, I want to get like an actual story from there. And that's how I feel with like the history of the T'lan Mass and just the Elder Gods in general. And then like the original undead Kachang Chamal, however you say that. Like, I don't know. I feel like I've seen such like a small glimpse into this world, and yeah.
I hope we see more of the Kachang Chamal, like not the hunter version, like the actual civilization. Because right now they just seem like mindless killing machines, Jurassic Park velociraptors
with swords on their arms.
Right.
They were all like, all but the matron were undead, right? And when they're alive, do they even have like autonomy other than like they like kind of hinted at there was like a breed of them that did and like caused like their downfall or something?
Like the short tail version that created the moon spawn and other floating things like it. I believe that's what it said. So I got that they were like a full-on civilization with autonomy.
But it also like...
But they were kind of like a hive mind thing where the matrons were in charge.
That's what it
Yeah.
seemed. And I don't know to what extent, like, is it just because they're undead?
And I think you guys are both, I think that they were very much like a hive mind with a matron that kind of controlled a group. I don't really remember if it's like how much autonomy an individual worker has in that, but and Jake's right as well. There was another group of Kachin Chamal that's like the short tails that I think was a bit more autonomous, that was kind of threatening to change things.
I love how a society of intelligent hive mind dinosaurs like fits right into this world. Like
Yeah.
they're did it say that they were like the original civilizations on in this world? I can't remember if that was true or
I
not.
don't remember which one's the oldest, if that's what
Yeah,
like
that's
I feel like it talked about them as like older than the old ones.
older than the elder gods, right? Because at the beginning of, although
That's
there's
what I
like
thought.
two prologues, right? Like when
But they're the four like founding races. And I think Kachin
they were
Chamal are
before those.
one.
Oh,
I thought Kachin Chamal were one of them.
maybe. Yeah.
All right, this is showing our current level of understanding of the
Yeah, for sure.
lots of details.
I feel bad as a resident expert that I don't know this off the top of my head.
It's okay. Steven throws around that term pretty loosely. I always felt like whenever you'd say that on the Wheel of Time episodes, I was like, that's not me. But
come on, why do people listen to our podcast if not to hear expert takes and breakdowns?
On the wiki, this says their power was said to have been so immense that they had kept the elder gods away from the Malazan world until their civilization self-destructed. They were also said to have ruled over the younger Jagat race, much as the Jagat tyrants had ruled over the Imas. So, I mean, it sounds like they're older than the Jagat, who are older than the Imas. I don't know.
and older than the elder gods.
Or maybe not older, but they kept the elder gods away.
Yeah, like well, they
Mhm.
existed before the elder gods like gained power on there.
Mhm.
Which if I remember right, so the rent had the matron's soul in it in the prologue.
Yeah.
And that was like it was already there when the elder gods confronted Kalor.
Yeah.
Because that was years later, actually. That was like the second half of the prologue, which I
can't remember which prologue came first. Was it the
first one
prologue?
that was the first one.
Okay. And then years later was the
Kalor prologue.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Should we talk about some of the characters in the current day in this story?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's do it.
Okay. So what about Silver Fox / Tattersail / Nightchill / Spell or Don, whatever his name is.
Nightchill's boyfriend.
Yeah. There one more? Anyway, Silver Fox.
Were there 3 or 4 in there?
I think there were 4.
I don't remember who it was.
They thought it was just 3 for a while, and then they're like, actually, it's 4.
I thought they thought it was 2, and then they realized it was 3, and then I don't know. I don't remember. Nightchill and Tattersail, and then Nightchill's boyfriend are the ones I remember. I thought Silver Fox as a character was cool. I expected her to be more Tattersail-ish from like based off her introduction in Gardens of the Moon. I thought her and Perrin were going to connect more than they did in this book, but the direction it took made it more interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I was probably expecting a little more from this plotline, to be honest, and hard to say, right? When you're book 3 of 10 with characters that are going to be around for a while, they're probably setting up more stuff. But in this book, at least, I don't know, like, seemed like a pretty big thing. Tattersail was a big thing in the first book. Her being back in some regard. And it was important with the eye mask, and the eye masks were obviously pivotal in preventing the chain Shamael from destroying everything. So that was good. But then also is like this backdrop of the Maibi character. And that was one that I really kind of struggled with. That I would call that I would classify that as a slog bit for me.
I wouldn't really say slog. It was a bit more of a filler, I guess. I'm assuming the dream world she inhabits at the end plays a bigger role later on in the series. And so
with the two wolf gods in the new wolf world,
with all the IMAS as well, right? And their non-undead form.
They're hanging out there, although they don't want to. They still have more to do. They're going off to fight another conflict, although they could have chosen to just pass on through Hood's Gate.
Yeah,
but the wolves there, the Talon Eye, are staying there for now, at least.
Are they Talon anymore, or are they just Eye?
I don't know.
I think they're just Eye, right? Didn't part of Ikovian's
did he do anything? I didn't think he did anything for them. I thought that was just.
I just assumed they were all connected. But was it Tog?
Yeah, well, they were part of the contract ritual there. But I thought no, Ikovian did. He made it like easier for Silverhawks to release them. I think that was the deal.
But they're so. Anyways, I assumed that dream world will play a bigger role in the future, and so this plotline with the Maibi, or I swear the audiobook said maybe. I don't know. I'm so terrible with these pronunciations, but yeah, it's spelled like it should be Maibi. So I did kind of feel like filler, but also I took it more as like setup for subsequent things. I guess I love the whole Tog thing and how he like connected in at the end. That was a cool, like, okay, what's happening in the beginning, and then you don't really see anything, like you're not really sure, like, and he's not on screen much, it's like you're reminded that he's inside Talk the Elder or younger for a bit, and then all of a sudden he has like a role at the end. I was really confused that a being named Tog was inside a person named Talk. I was especially listening to the audiobook, that was kind of confusing for a bit. But
I actually read almost all of this book, like no listening, just read it. Amazing for me.
I would love to do that. I don't know. It'd be so hard to find time to actually read.
It took a while. That's why it took 122 episodes to get.
So maybe do a combination of listening for the next one, Stephen.
Man, I try and I just fall straight asleep.
I don't fall asleep, but I have to like rewind so much. I'm like, okay, is that really what is happening here? But
yeah. Okay. What about Talk himself and he inhabited for the majority what I called the Bizarro storyline. It seems like so far all three of the books have had like this Bizarro storyline. In Deadhouse Gates, it was the priest and his wife was the spider divers woman, and what was that guy's name?
Iskaralpust.
That was the Bizarro storyline from book 2. I actually can't remember if there was one in book 1 or not.
Was it Crippa? He's kind of Bizarro.
Although he's kind of like a mainstay at this point. But yeah, Lady Envy and the Segula warriors and her two large, somewhat trained beasts that were fighting along with the Tool off in the far south. That was one where I was like, okay, this is like interesting, but also very strange.
I thought, well, first of all, I thought the Segula were so cool. Like their mask society.
That's one that I want to see more of for sure.
They kind of reminded me of a like actually savage Aiel. With like how the Panion Doman wanted to like convert them to their cause, and they're like, no, we want to fight you, and then they're offended that they didn't want to fight, so they're like, okay, now we got to go send send these guys over to kill you because you rejected our offer to fight.
I thought it was pretty hilarious too how the third spent the entire time, Mock, I think, spent
Yeah.
almost the entire time being knocked out by Lady Envy.
Yeah.
Because he kept trying to fight Tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, his honor demanded it. Yeah.
And remember when he was talking about Anomander Rake, how Anomander Rake, Lady Envy was like, oh yeah, Anomander Rake, and I went over and he started fighting a bunch of those guys, and then one of them was like, oh yeah, he holds the 7th position.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he needs to come claim it.
Yeah, like we still have that open for him. And I thought Talk's storyline was cool because it gave us like an inside look at the just like the chaos and horror of the Panyan Domain and Panyan Seer itself. And then when he's thrown into, I don't know if I remember this right, was it like a pit dungeon cell with the matron? And just
I
being like,
I wasn't really sure where it was either, but it was like, yeah, he was just like all encompassed by it. It was,
and like she's like crushing him, and she's insane, thinking he's like her like child or something. And then so she like crush him and he'd get healed, and just like he's going insane from that. And that was some like almost Lovecraftian horror right there.
That writing was all very disjointed on purpose to like give you this effect of things are quite jumbled here with our characters.
Kind of am I right to assume that now that Tog, so when Tok first woke up and he could like see out of his like blind eye, right? He could see like magically and like magical stuff. Was that just because of Tog, or is that like, has that ability left him now that Tog is no longer in his body?
I don't remember.
Because I remember thinking like, oh, this is cool. Like he lost an eye but gained this. And then now I'm like, wait, was that only because of the god or ascendant habitation? I'm still not really clear on who is a god at what given point, but
yeah, it's tough. I thought Tog only came over to like claim him in this book.
Yeah, he did. Did he have the magic seeing ability in Gardens of the Moon?
I do not remember. Gardens of the Moon was a long time ago for me.
I don't think
he
so.
did. I think it was this book that he got the ability.
Because he always just talks about how itchy his eye is. So I don't remember it being mentioned before.
So this just like happens as he was thrown, because he was thrown through the Warren in Guards of the Moon, and he comes out here, gets spit out down
Months later.
With Envy and Crow and Co.
But he still doesn't have it then yet either. I don't think so.
Yeah, I thought right when he woke up, because he could see the rent in a different way than the rest of them, right?
Oh, he could?
I could be remembering this wrong. It was a while ago. I was trying to read some chapter summaries because it took me so long to read the book. I was like, I should probably read a summary of the first parts. But
all right, let's talk about a different part then.
I did think it was cool. I just made the connection recently that when he woke up and he saw the huge barrow that he was near, like that's where the matron dug herself out.
Came out.
Like,
Uh-huh.
Thousands of years. Like it took her so long to come out of there. But
I
just want to say the whole like Panyan Dome and Panyan Seer thing was so cool. And I feel like Gardens of the Moon and Deadhouse Gates didn't really have this like neat way that all the stories were tied together in the way that Memories of Ice did, which is another reason why I like Memories of Ice most. Like the way the prologues tied into everything with not only the plot, but different people's motivations. I thought that was really cool. And just the idea of the Panyan Seer, so creepy. The audiobook I have has the cover art of, I think, Gruntle and Stani. I've seen cover art of the Panyan Seer on the front. I'm like, that, I think all the covers should have the Panyan Seer on the front. Like that is
really?
Yeah, he's like sitting on a
Sitting on the throne, like
Throne.
the undead looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I think that's actually an illustration from the Subterranean Press edition.
Oh, is that one of like the special editions?
Special editions?
Dang.
Yeah.
So it costs like 400 for that cover. Because that is a cool.
That book
that's
costs more than $400.
okay. Wow.
Oh, I see it. Oh yeah, it's creepy.
That's what I think should have been on the front, because I feel like the Panyan Seer was such a star. This and the Kachane Shamala, man. I don't know.
It's such a dysfunctional empire that he built.
Yeah,
but
and
it works.
And it makes sense because it's all like powered by the Crippled God, right? And he's all about chaos, basically.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess kind of chaos. It's more like
his magic is chaotic.
Yeah. It's like imperfection and
like his
pain.
his like, I guess he's like more the god of pain and imperfection, but his I feel like his effects are chaotic in nature.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier. I really liked meeting this, what we, Jake and I at least assume at this point is going to be kind of like the big bad up through the end of the series. We'll see, obviously, but it seems likely. It seems like this is one that's going to take longer than a couple of chapters to get summed up, Jake.
Yeah, I hope so. Like I was telling Ryan, I can't remember all the other plot lines, but in Gardens of the Moon, there was like 4 or 5 different times where I was like, okay, here's what's happening with, this is going to be the series long conflict. And it was like completed in the next bit. But
one thing that has not been wrapped up in this book that I thought was really interesting was, now Perrin, who I thought was one of my highlight characters for this book. This decision he has now as the master of the deck, if he's going to legitimize the Crippled God, and he's thinking about this, and he realizes, well, if I put him to this, then he would become bound as a god, which is like some Jafar, Aladdin, genie type logic going on there. He hasn't decided yet, but the next book being called House of Chains makes me think he's going to decide to make. He
basically decided.
He hasn't but he's like realizing there's something he can do to like make things a little more permanent. He's kind of done this on accident a couple times. So I think he's gonna like throw this down at a critical time, and this is going to be important. I like the Jafar comparison. That's totally what it is. Like, all right, he's either going to be a force of extreme chaos because he can do like, who knows what he can do outside the deck, or we bind him and now he's subject to all the other rules, while also giving him like more influence, right? Like more direct influence. Something else that is unfinished that I am so confused on, and I'm like hesitant to read up on it because I don't want spoilers, but the whole Draconis, Dragnapur, the wagon is like the gate of House of Dark, right? So there's like, they wanted to, like, what is the whole purpose of Dragnapur's soul pulling the gate to the House of Dark and running away from this chaos whirlwind or something? This was definitely explained, but it was in classic Erickson fashion explained in a way that you really have to pay close attention to. It was something like that. It was like darkness and chaos were warring against each other back in the day. And so Draconis decided to create Dragnapur to kind of like put some order to things, but then he realized like maybe he shouldn't do it this way because now there's like this eternal thing going on inside with the gate. That's my kind of understanding. And
like I guess I'm confused. What would happen if the chaos reaches the dark again? Would that battle just ensue again? And his like
chaos can now has free reign to do more, to take over this.
I feel like darkness spawned everything, and that's sort of
That's why
I
they call
won't-
him Mother Dark.
Mother Dark, and I don't, something bad would happen if chaos would corrupt it, something like that.
Is
Something.
Mother Dark I assume that was like an elder god. Is that just a like symbolic way of referring to the power of the dark warrens?
Oh, it's like an actual being.
It is an actual being. Okay. And I guess like okay, so thinking through it again, originally Envy was saying that, or was it Envy? Someone was saying that Draconis needs to be freed and Dragnapur needs to be destroyed to free Draconis. And then Perrin talking to Draconis was like, found out that he's like, actually, like, yeah, at some point needs to be broken to reset, but right now we just need more souls in here to keep it going until that happens. So like, although would breaking the sword immediately solve that problem, or do they need more souls to get like a head start then break it?
Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think we can say at this point.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Malazan crew. So there's a lot of characters here. They were kind of I would say they were the bulk of the characters that I cared the most about, with, Quick Ben, Dujek, Whiskeyjack, all of the bridge burners kind of lumped together. I thought Quick Ben was awesome. We finally got like some answers as to his backstory. Yeah, with the Whiskeyjack Anomander Rake friendship story, where Whiskeyjack just like spilled the beans.
Yeah, so here's some exposition.
Here's some juicy goss.
I'm sure Quick Ben would have appreciated Whiskeyjack telling a powerful ascendant about his history.
Yeah, I don't think he would have actually, Ryan. No, I don't think so. He likes to keep his head down.
Was Quick Ben special before absorbing all the souls of his companions?
I think he was just kind of like a normal level.
Was he normal?
mage.
Was there, because the way it presented it seemed like not just anybody could absorb all the other souls that same way. So I don't know.
I'm not sure exactly what would have made him special, other than his quick wit and his intelligence.
Yeah. And then I guess like it must be pretty different than the Tattersail kind of multiple souls in one body. Like Quick Ben seems to be like the only side effect of having those souls is power and access to more warrens, whereas the Silver Fox one, maybe it's because he was his own person who absorbed others, whereas Tattersail was born with all at the same time. But,
yeah, he doesn't seem to be warring internally. Yeah, there were at least a couple of good moments where other characters were assuming that Ben was not as powerful as he was. One with Brooch and Baculane, where he goes and just kind of throws down with them. The necromancers. And then the other time during before most of the conflict at Coral's happening, when they're taking out the ambush they had set up on the mountainside nearby, and Ben just kind of like single-handedly saves the day there. Otherwise they would have been wiped out a lot sooner. So yeah, but at the same time, he's not like all powerful. He gets tired pretty quickly, and
for sure,
he gets bloodied a lot. He's taken out for like the first third of the book or so, just like unconscious, being carried around. But while he's unconscious, he's like solving all the problems and figuring out how to fix the warrens. Yeah.
Was he unconscious because he was hurt, or was he unconscious because he was?
No, he was just like going on a Perrin does that a lot too.
Yeah, he's just like astral projecting.
I don't know if you remember. There's a part in Deadhouse Gates where Kalam uses his like shaved knuckle in the hole to call on Quick Ben, and so he's talking to him, and Quick Ben's like, "Oh, I'm kind of busy over here." So he's helping out Kalam a little bit behind the scenes too.
Yeah.
And they made several references to what was going on over there with the Trigyle trade guild group that was kind of back and forth between both books. And then now Dujek is at least expecting to be sent back over there to help out.
Yeah, you have, I mean, obviously at the end, Diker recounting the story to them. But also there's moment where they talk about like Kalam went to go assassinate Lysine, right? And they're like, oh, he needs to go there because he needs to hear like from her mouth the explanation to get it, basically. So, and then they do mention the whirlwind a bit. I'm excited to get back to that at some point. Like,
so am I. That book was great.
I want to see. Well, I mean, it was good. I think Memories of Ice was superior, but I do think it was good.
One thing that, let me just kind of nitpick another little criticism I have. I feel like all of the bridge burners were really just kind of the same person given different names. And I know they had different, backstories a bit, but, do I know the difference between Picker and, I know Trotz because he was the Bargos.
Trotz was his own person.
Picker,
for sure.
Picker, Hedge. There were a couple other ones.
Hedge sticks out to me.
Well,
he's like the bomb guy, right?
Yeah, he's
Fiddler and Hedge are the crazy duo. But and then there's the guy, I forget his name, who has his mother's hair woven into his shirt. It smells awful.
Yeah, that was the mage guy. Spindle.
Is that the
Spindle?
Yeah, Spindle.
So yes, there were differences, but at the same time, like, were there enough differences where I really like cared enough to like have all these different viewpoints? I would have been fine if these characters all existed, but we just had one consistent viewpoint. I think that would have helped me like center a bit more on what was going on. Having everyone else is just like, okay, which one is this exactly? Like, who's I don't know. It was a bit too chaotic for me to have all of these different viewpoints.
They were like minor characters though. Like, how often did you get one of their viewpoints? It was mainly during the battles.
Yeah. No, I mean it's a nitpick thing, but it's just something I thought could have been a little better.
I'd compare it to
for your worst of the best.
I have a different one.
I forgot we do that. I'd compare it to the same as like in the Heroes. You have a lot of minor points of views during battles, and it's to help view the battle from different ways and get a sense of like the conflict and the excitement there.
The only thing was I felt like they were all kind of the same person, just given different names, and part of that, I feel like a lot of the characters speak in the same way. Like, if you were to just like pick out bits of dialogue and not tell me who was saying it, I wouldn't really be able to identify. Although, the main characters have a lot of differences. A lot of the minor characters, they all kind of talk in this like highbrow fashion, and it's funny and it's, it's smartly written, but I feel like a lot of it's the same, but just like different characters saying different
main
words.
Characters are more highbrow, and then like the lower class bridge burners are all lowbrow.
Yeah, they're a little more irreverent, but
cynical.
There's not like, but they all kind of have like the same feel to the way they talk.
I feel like Gruntle had a really distinct voice, and Ikovian. I also listened to it for better or for worse. So
I definitely can see where Steven's coming from with some of the more minor bridge burners.
But I mean, again, this is a total nitpick because these are like tertiary characters.
I think it would be fun to do some sort of, next time we do like a game episode where we just take clips of dialogue with no context from different series. Try to guess like who said it, what series, and I
like that. I like that idea a lot. Okay, let's do it.
I think a Kindle
requires
would be really helpful.
That requires some actual preparation for our episodes,
which
seems like Jake needs to do a game show.
I do love game shows.
He needs to host it.
All right, Jake, tell us why. Let's do this. I think we've talked through the majority of the characters. We can do a couple more in the worst of the best, and we're getting low on time. But tell us why you thought Ikovian was so awesome, because clearly you have strong feelings.
The whole idea of like the Destriant, the Mortal Sword, and the Shield Anvil, like that triumvirate, was so cool. It just in general, like that's such a cool idea. And he was just such like, he was just amazing as like defending Kapustan and like working with the Talani Mass and like, oh yeah, I'll just play bait for the Kachain Shamala so the Talani Mass could go out there, and like he had such like integrity. I feel like he was written in a way you really felt like this was like a guy with a lot of honor in a like humble but not like pushover kind of way. He was just a solid person. And then like, even though he knew his god was like dead basically, which I wonder how dead was it Fenor
Do you
actually
know?
is.
Do you know what happened with that?
Yeah, in Dead House Gates. Yeah.
Okay.
He
Yeah.
but
Picked
like
up on
I
that.
don't know what like death of a god really means yet in
Sure.
this world.
Yeah.
But knowing that like his supernatural support was gone, he still like felt that it was his duty to take on the pain of like other people and peoples. And I don't know, he just saw like a need, and that he was the tool to complete that, and like without thought for himself just went for it.
I
No
think the reason
spoilers.
why. Oh, yeah,
No
go ahead,
spoilers, but who does the give me your pain?
Oh, it's
Yeah.
a total dollar. Yeah, it's a.
It's like
again, it's very similar to Oathbringer. I think Oathbringer.
well, it's like the inverse of that though.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
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 Indeed. I think the reason why, as you're talking through that, like I don't disagree with anything you said, Jake, but I think the reason why I struggled to connect with the second half of his plot line was I just don't understand how is he absorbing the pain? Like, how does this work? Because I could see it if he's like the mortal sword of a god, and the god is like helping power this kind of transfer of emotions or whatever. But he's just like this dude now. Like, how does he do this? That's what I struggled with.
The way I understand it, and they kind of mentioned it, is so when he had Finner's support, it was like he would take on the pain onto himself, and then his god would then like absorb that into his essence and take that onto himself. And he was more like the physical representation there, like the conduit. And they said now that he doesn't have a god, like it would just go onto his own soul. So I assume it was like, which is why he just died, right? Or did he disappear? I can't remember. I think he died.
He died, and they piled up all their gifts for him on top of him, made a really cool little memorial. Yeah.
So it was like all that pain, like energy, like magic was going onto his soul, and he could still like, I guess he still knew the technique for extracting it, but instead of having like a buffer to then take it away, it just went on to him directly. So I guess his god leaving him or like dying didn't remove his ability to take the pain. It just changed where the pain was going. That's how I understood it.
Okay.
Because like all magic is that true in this world? I don't know. Is all magic like directly from a god in some way?
I don't know. Doesn't Carul talk about how the Warrens are like his blood?
Yes. Yeah.
That happens.
Are all Warrens his blood, or just the Warrens? Just the Elder Warrens?
I think no. The Warrens, not the Elder. The Elder Warrens, I don't think are from Carul. Like the Warrens.
Like he transferred the holds into the Warrens or something.
I don't know exactly, but I don't think like the Tista Andy, they use like Corral Ghislaine.
Like the Elder Warrens, right?
Yeah, those cool names.
Starval Demelaine is like the Elaint, like the Dragon Warren. I don't think those are from Cruel. I think he might have made some like kind of more minor Warrens that I don't know exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, he refers to it as his blood. So I guess the way I understand it is beings become gods through absorbing magical energy in some way. And so therefore magic itself is tied to gods. Like they're kind of the same thing. Like if what makes you a god is magic, and gods can then give magic it's all the same. And so
yeah, it's like if you ascend enough and then you're able to like be in the right place at the right time and pick up on enough magic, you can hold the magic, then you can become So
the magic ritual of pulling pain is something that doesn't require the god. The god was required to then like dissipate it.
All right.
That's how I'm sciencing the magic here. I have no idea like how accurate that is, but
All right. We only have a few minutes left. Let's do our worst of the best. So if you haven't been with us for other episodes, we're going to talk about a moment that we really liked, but then like something, that could have been a little bit better. I've already nitpicked a bit, but I don't know. It's we don't want to nitpick too much. We're generally positive on the books review, but it's kind of fun to sometimes point out these things in comedic ways often. Do you guys have one? Would you like me to start?
You start, yeah. Or
okay,
I'll go last.
Why don't you start then, Ryan? Because I've been talking a lot.
Okay. My worst of the best is definitely going to be around Whiskeyjack's sacrifice, where he's like dueling with Calor to stop him from getting to Silver Fox, right? Am I remembering that correctly? And he's about to beat him too, right? And then his leg gives out, his leg, and it's sad, and Keller beats him, and Whiskeyjack dies. And I'm like, man, why couldn't Whiskeyjack have just freaking gotten his leg healed? Like, it wouldn't have been that much time.
Their magical abilities were always taxed. They had no additional mana to spare.
That's true, and it proved to be the wrong decision.
Because I thought that was,
if Whiskeyjack had just let some minor soldier die and healed, he would have still been there, and things could have gone differently.
But that's not who Whiskeyjack is, Ryan.
I know.
I thought it was really good writing, like the foreshadowing for that.
Yeah, I do too. I just hate it.
Yeah.
I don't want Whiskeyjack to be dead.
When I was starting the series, I was like reading the Malazan reread of The Fallen on tour, and I need to stop doing that because they don't like do spoilers directly, but they do
spoil.
They're like, ooh, watch for this, and so they did that a few times with his leg. I was like, okay, the leg is important, and that kind of cheapened that a bit. So I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, I started so every time I would like finish a chapter 2, I would just read the chapter summary for that. I liked that a lot more. I did that tour read along through most of Gardens of the Moon, and they like gave away something, and I was like, why would they just say that right here? But
yeah, the wiki is pretty good.
What if you just read the girl's viewpoint?
No, because he interjects and is like,
he interjects.
Good job picking up on this.
Okay.
Yeah. The wiki is pretty good, and it's pretty spoiler free because it doesn't do like the Wheel of Time one does like status right at the beginning, dead or alive. It's like, come on, guys, like really, that's not a good idea. But it doesn't do that, and then it goes through and says like in Gardens of the Moon, in Dead House Gates, in. So that's a good way to do it. That's what I like doing. Yeah. Okay. Mine.
Yeah.
Okay. So I really like you guys said, all the different characters, the big players here, the alliances, who to trust, what's going on. No one really trusts each other. We're not sure what the plan is throughout. It's all great. The one character that I was expecting more from was Kaladin Brood, who's got an awesome name, and he seems like an awesome character. He's got a cool hammer. He does nothing. Come on. Like, I'm sure he'll do more later in the series, but I was very disappointed. The one time he tries to do something, he gets bested by frickin' Cruppa. Like, and I know Cruppa is obviously more than he appears and is a cool character.
Cruppa's like Tom Bombadil, right? Like, what's going on there?
That's probably a good analogy. But Kaladin Brood at the end is listed as an Ascendant. So he's like same level as Anomander Rake, and that's how their relationship appears. And he's millennia old. But like he just watches the battle. He doesn't do anything. So worst of the best is, the alliance is great. I love all the big characters coming out. Everyone does something notable. Kaladin, come on, man. I expect more from him in the future.
I can kind of see that. Yeah. I would say this is like a runner-up for mine. They kind of set up like Anomander Rake as like almost being dead, when they're like, oh, like I'll just talk to Anomander Rake, and like who's to say he's still the owner of the sword, and then it's like, oh, he's just been underwater Like that's why people couldn't sense him. Is that it? Like that was kind of that kind of fell flat to me.
Did he just like retreat real far into the Warren or something?
Yeah, I didn't understand that, and that could be
I'm
on
not
me.
sure. I don't remember.
And also, like we as a reader, you're not believing for a second that he's just like died off camera.
Yeah. But I would say worst of the
Steven
best for
doesn't
me.
believe anybody has died off camera.
No one has ever died off camera. Never, ever. Except for like the last book that we reviewed, there was someone who died off camera, I think. Yeah. I was wrong.
Worst of the best for me is the whole table thing with
oh yeah, the table thing.
Like I feel like that was
the irregulars get it at the end and they just like walk out of it.
Yeah, that was, I don't know if that was meant to just be like comedic relief or
yeah, there's a lot of good comedic relief.
But it also seemed like it was like plot important because of the whole like Perrin being master of the deck. I just didn't, I don't know. I wasn't vibing with that very much. I don't know.
I thought it was funny how they were like, oh, we have this figured out because and we know how we can game this deck or the deck so that we can make a bunch of money. And then because like parents now master the deck, it screwed it up and they lost all their money and like it doesn't work anymore.
I just thought it was weird. It was like, oh, we stole this and then okay, give it back. I don't know. It seemed like, I don't know. That was probably worse than the best for me.
I love the whole idea of the different houses and like the different roles within the houses, and it's the shifting levels of balance between and not all of the openings are ever really filled. It's like all of these different chessboards almost, and like, oh, I need a knight, I need a king over here. Okay, like
like Gethal, was that his name? Became like what's the title he got?
I think he was Hood's knight, right?
No.
Or is that a different guy?
That's someone else. Do we figure out who that is? No, he became like, he was working for Hood and then Hood discarded him because he tried to.
Oh yeah. Oh, Dassin. But Jake's talking about is he a jagged guy or a Bargas?
I don't remember.
Okay.
He gets
his brother was like his brother
slashes
was
him
the
across the face, and then he gets sucked into a warren and then falls into the Crippled God's domain. And the Crippled God takes him on. He's like, I'm about to enter the deck. You're gonna be my, I don't remember the title. Dang, what was the title he gave him? It was like basically his like leader, like his head guy.
Carnidas?
So
no, his name's like Gethal.
His brother is the one who is inside of the thinnest house right now.
Oh, Kafal? Like is he a Bargast?
He's a Jaghut. He's a Jaghut. His name is Gethol.
He has a brother, right?
I see. He was the herald. Okay.
Yeah, he becomes the herald of the Crippled God.
He's like the mouth of he's the mouth of Sauron.
He was the brother of Gothos.
Gothos is folly.
I don't remember him.
Okay.
But
he's like a historian in the background, and he appears along with the Carium. I think he's like in the thinnest house right now.
Anyways, to your point of like the ever shifting game and just like, okay, I'm going to need a herald. So I'm going to call this guy. And I don't know, really cool. And it just makes me want to play Magic the Gathering more.
Sure.
The whole deck of dragons. But
all right, if you want to play Magic the Gathering or D&D with Jake, that is an option. It will be Malazan themed soon as you get further into the series. Thanks for tuning in to our review of Memories of Ice. I apologize for all the mistakes we made, but hopefully this is entertaining. You can kind of like see a raw review of what we understood, what we didn't. Hopefully more of this locks into place in episode 287 when we get to House of Chains. Hopefully we actually read it faster. We gotta
set a hard deadline again.
We need a deadline. Deadline really helped me. A deadline really helped me.
Should we do end of March? 1 month?
That's way fast. End of April. Let's say end of April.
Okay, end of April. Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. We're committed. We're on air now.
Yeah.
Committed. Okay. All right. Jake, Ryan, as always. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. It's a pleasure.
Okay. See you in the next one.
All right. See you next time.